Whoa! Donald, what's this that just appeared? I think it's a time machine. Quick, let's use it!
Oh, we're just jumping right in? Okay, sure, but what about the space-time continuum?
Wow, we're traveling through time. Look at all the swirls outside our machine. Look at all those floating clocks.
What is this, a cartoon? Where are we going anyway? Or when are we going?
Wherever the flow of the time stream takes us.
Oh my god, this is time travel we're talking about here. I'm not gonna tolerate any of your whimsy in something as dire and universe-altering as this.
Wait! The swirls are stopping. We're reaching our destination.
I'm not ready for this.
Ah, looks like we're in a little German hamlet back in the 1400s. Looks like we're in some sort of blacksmith-looking place?
Wait a minute, I've heard of this. This was when the printing press was invented, which means this must be the workshop of...
Ach, du lieber Gott! What is this? Where did you two strange men come from?
Sorry to intrude, sir. My friend and I are, hard as this may be to believe, we're time travelers from the distant future.
Distant future. Sounds like a load of shice to me.
Ah, don't you love it when you travel back in time and meet people who don't speak English, but they speak it to you for convenience's sake while also speaking a tiny amount of their native language to remind the audience of where they're from? I love it personally.
Bah, who cares? I'm in the process of completing my wondrous invention. I am Johannes Gensfleisch zu Laden zum Gutenberg.
Jeez, how'd you ever get a library card as a kid?
Yes, your invention. I've heard of it, Gutenberg. You're inventing the printing press, a major stepping stone for writers like us to flourish in the future.
Wait, you are writers. What is it you have written?
Well, I've written numerous Power Ranger fanfics and several half-finished NaNoWriMo stories that I stopped as soon as I reached 50,000 words or so, and my friend Donald here has written a series about dinosaurs with laser guns and absolutely nothing else.
Hey, that's not true! I've also written... Yeah, he's right, nothing else.
Oh dear God! What have I done? This is what my invention leads to. Nein! I won't have it! I must destroy this infernal printing press!
Excuse me, Gutenberg, why would you do that?
Quick, back in the time machine! We have to leave before we irrevocably change the present!
Yeah, you just go ahead and leave. I will still destroy this and erase you from history!
Wow, he picked up on the ways of time travel surprisingly quickly for a 1400s era German.
What have you done, David? You heard him. We're erased from history.
No worries, we'll just go back further before Gutenberg.
Go back further? No, you idiot. That'll make things worse.
Too late, we've arrived. Looks like we're in ancient Mesopotamia? Oh, I'm so glad my history class is paying off. And look, there's ancient writers inscribing something on a tablet over there.
Great. The first writers ever. Can't wait to see how we ruin this.
Greetings, fellow writers! We have come from the far future.
Great gods above, the far future. By the kings of Sumeria, that cannot be possible. Oh good, they have British accents. Otherwise this would be so racist.
It is indeed possible, my friends. What is it you're writing there?
We are working on 5 poems about the great Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, and his quest for eternal life.
Gilgamesh! I've heard of it! The oldest surviving work of fiction in history. Your work leads directly to us, great scribes.
Yeah, say it again, David. What could possibly go wrong? You? Writers? But your garbs are so strange, and your words all jumbled and confused. This is the legacy of our stories? The kings of old will not stand for this! Destroy the clay tablets, scribes!
What? No, why would you do that?
Hey, at least it's not about the quality of our work this time.
Back in the time machine, quickly! We must go back further!
Is there much further back to go? We're in ancient Mesopotamia.
I guess we'll find out. Swirl started, clock's floating. Ah! Here we are. We've arrived back in the... Wait, is this the Jurassic? No, I think it's the late Cretaceous period.
Oh yeah, dinosaurs. I forgot about those.
See, Donald, we can just, live here and not deal with the consequences of our time-traveling, meddling shenanigans. It'll be fine. Look, there's some very, very nice Brontosaurus over there browsing peacefully for their ginkgo leaves.
Oh, technically those are Alamosaurus, but that's okay, it's a common mistake. Nothing too...
Oh no! That T-Rex is charging at us! Run!
actually, that's a Daspletosaurus, but...
Shut up, you dork! Let's get out of here! Back in the time machine!
Oh no, the time dial's reset! We're going back to the present! At least we didn't change anything about dinosaur times.
Actually,
What?
Donald,
What did you do?
You really won't believe this, but, I actually kinda stepped on this little butterfly while we were running away from the not T-Rex.
Oh no! What have you done? What have you done?
Time swirls stopped. Clocks dissipating. We're back. Everything seems okay.
Hold on, let me check my phone. Dang it, Trump's still president.
Then I guess this is the Avengers Endgame time travel rules, where we just created alternate universes rather than changing our own. Whew! That's a relief.
You're telling me. Man, I wonder what that other universe would be like.
Meanwhile, in another universe.
Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of The Nitwit, the show where the note is always so a needle-pulling thread.
Isn't it just, Donald? And wow, we just passed 100 episodes. Will this quilt ever be finished, Donald?
Not if we don't want it to be. The quilt must go on!
That's right.
Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of The Ritwit, the show where an English major and a music major walk into a bar. And it's just as much of a joke as it sounds.
Pretty much.
In case anyone's concerned, we filmed this at this local tavern by us. Well, film as in record.
Yeah, exactly. Walking into a bar. Ouch.
Yeah, there's always a drunk fight going on in the background I have to edit out. It's a real mess.
It's a real mess. But it's still a little bit easier to record than it is from a vacation home that we discovered. So
right. Well, I mean, it's also way easier
kidding,
to record than can you imagine, this is just a hypothetical scenario, but can you imagine if we were in different countries and we had to Skype and we had to sync it up?
Such a hypothetical
can
scenario.
you imagine how difficult that would be? Oh, I don't even want to imagine.
I don't even want to imagine. It's so hard to imagine living like that.
So let's not think about it. Let's instead think about what we at the Ritwit have writ, because it's time for that in our set. Is it not?
Yes, we're correct. We're up to the number 3 in this set about revision. You're already seeing the title, listeners, but we'll talk about the main topic after we get through the usual segment.
Yeah.
I have started on this season 1 finale of Starburst. What was that? Like a yawn?
That was me just being whoa, and then prolonging it way longer than it needed to be.
Yes, long-running gags are great, as this show knows very well. It is pretty delicate, though, trying to wrap up all of our plot threads and get things set to where we want them to be, so it's not finished just yet. But once I get that drafted, my co-author and I plan to break into Season 2 with a bang by upping our page limit per episode.
Oh, I'm sure you, Mr. Wardy, will love that.
Oh, I tell you how many times I have cut off banter at the knees trying to get into a page count. It was not, in that respect, as much fun as writing the banter.
Right.
But the upshot of it is that actually we're not planning as many episodes for Season 2, partly because we can do more stuff in fewer episodes anyway with more pages. But we've already done some fun brainstorming, but trying not to get too far ahead of ourselves and make sure that Season 1 is done being written first.
Right.
And before we get into Season 2, I plan to go over it with a finer comb than before. Hey, look at that timing. We're talking about a revision set. And possibly search for outlets to publish it on.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about doing this for a long time, and originally we didn't think about waiting this long, but now that we've got all of Season 1 in the bag,
right.
Well, okay, when I finish the draft and we've gone through and done the fine-tooth combing and stuff,
right.
That we aren't pressed for time. It's taken us years, literally 6 or something years to get to this point.
Right.
But we're almost done with Season 1, so now we could have a regular release
6
schedule
year
without...
season. That's
no,
cool.
Well, I mean, the document itself, like we have all of the episodes together. That doesn't count like character profile informations and episode summaries. That's just the episodes.
Right.
Our document for that is over 275 pages right now.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So it's serious, but yeah, no, it's really cool. We've obviously had fun doing it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have stuck it out this long. But because we waited to publish anything until we had enough that it didn't feel like we were pressing ourselves, because he is a teacher and I obviously have my job and all the other things that come with that to wrangle with, and so we don't have enough time to guarantee writing and hate to be late on releases for that.
Right.
But now that we've
makes
got
sense.
now that we've got almost all of season 1 together, like, why keep waiting? We've got enough content to pad out a runway, and we were already excited to write season 2, but that gives you extra impetus to get it done.
Yeah,
and
no,
decent quality. So that's the hope.
Yeah.
Although
it's always
where
good to
we're
do
going to
something
publish this, that's the thing. I don't know. If you have suggestions, listeners, I'd love to hear them. More on that when we get to the end of this episode.
Yes, as we do at the end of every
work,
episode, yes.
Work kept me stupid busy because
Right.
I went to America and all that stuff. So not too much writing aside from the podcast related stuffs.
Which we'll get to.
I actually wrote it. I actually got to write skits this month.
Well, no,
which,
actually, that's true. We don't have to get to them. We get into one of them, but we've already done another one.
We already had one of them. Yeah.
It's good that you get to write some skits. I mean, this is a collaborative effort. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. Like before we went weekly, one of the things I always felt like I wasn't getting a chance to write many of the skits because Donald has so many fun ideas and he usually gets them down. And
yeah.
I tell you what, I'm not good about getting down the ideas into an actual form we can use. So to feel like I contributed this much has been really cool. Especially because now we need more of them anyway, thanks to doing weekly releases.
Right. Well, let me know if you want to do any more too. Like you can do as many or as few as you want. I mean, as long as I do.
I've claimed a few ideas already, so don't worry about that. But it takes time to write these things, so still a little stupid busy. Although obviously I made time for Starburst, and I will hopefully finish that up within the next week. I really need to get it done today because I go back to work.
But by today and this week we mean way earlier because of when the episode comes out.
Then when the
so hopefully by the time this episode is out, you'll have finished.
Actually airs. I'll be done with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Good job. You finished it. Whoa.
premature celebration. Where are the pops? I need the with confetti coming out of them. Anyway.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
That's the premature image that came to my mind, absolutely. But
you know what that's like, right, Mr. Hurricane? I should have more next month because obviously I'll be able to talk about all the progress we've made on editing stuff and one thing worth mentioning. My co-author is actually working on his master's degree right now.
Yes, Mr. Joel Edgerton himself. No.
What?
It was a callback to a joke I did earlier.
Oh, Joel Edgerton. Yeah. So he's working on his master's thesis, and he actually sent me the first chapter of his thesis to look over, and it's far more serious editing than I normally do, but I did take the time to look over that as well. So I suppose it kind of what is writing?
What is writing? I mean, that's what this whole podcast is about, isn't it? But
yeah, we better know, but we never figured it out. What the heck? Anyhow, that's me. What have you writ?
What have I read? Well, as well as some, I say slow progress on Tesla in this document we have here, but I've actually done quite a bit in the last couple of days. I've got more into it, so. But like usually, it always takes me a while to start new stories. Like, even the first Megazoic book took me about 2 years or so to write, and a year and a half of that was the first 50 pages, so...
And, like, over a decade, 16 years ago? No, not the booked version. Sorry, I'm thinking of the original idea.
The original one, which I don't know if we mentioned... I think we mentioned that in the previous episode, but yeah, it was originally a Lego movie that for some reason or another just kept sticking with me.
Didn't you use like the crocodile, and so that's why you originally had a character that was named Sucus?
Yeah, because Sucus means crocodile. Well, and also because, like, I said he was a Dinosuchus. Now I'm at the point where...
Oh, that's right.
Also, now I'm at the point where I think species character names that are off of the species names are dumb. Hence, the Suchus and Albert of Dinosuchus and Albertosaurus. Those days are behind me.
Well, you did keep Albert as an Albertosaurus, but you did change the species on Suchus. Sorry, we keep talking about versions of Megazoic.
That's okay. Padding is good. And also, we can get rid of it later. And speaking of which, no, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
We're not on that one, are we?
Anyways, I also, as well as working on Teslanauts, and like I said, I've worked on quite a bit. I'm almost finished with chapter 2, which doesn't sound like a lot, but actually,
for you, it's pretty big.
For I've worked on the story for like a couple of months at this point. Yeah, it's actually quite good. So.
All right.
But as well as that, I've also worked more on self-promotion for Megazoic. I've really struggled with finding a literary agent lately. And after many Google searches, I found that most people barely get any responses, even for more mainstream stories.
Sure.
They're very, very, very picky. And I think I need to focus more on the self-publishing promotion. And hopefully get to a point where literary agents come to me instead. And apparently this is what more and more self-published authors are doing, more authors are doing instead, because of the intense struggle to gain the interest of literary agents. And they want to prove that the stories will sell themselves. It doesn't always work.
I mean, well, it doesn't. And, outside your sphere of influence, it's always slow. That's the real struggle. But I think that it's a very proactive stance, which I don't understand why literary agents have been so reluctant lately, I guess is the word I'd use, because obviously
maybe it's because
they ideas out there.
They get responses from so many people. They get queries from so many people. They have to be very selective.
They probably have to do a lot of wheat chaff separation stuff, and so they just don't make the time unless you can prove that you've got something in it. And so having this credit on your resume that you have enough confidence in your story to put it out there and that it is selling is more attractive to a literary agent than somebody simply saying, I've got this brand new combination of ideas, since there's no such thing as an original new idea anymore.
Right, exactly.
And I think you should sell it for me.
Yeah, no, exactly. And to be fair, I probably, this probably isn't the place to go into it, but I have been a little frustrated when a lot of them are a lot of the responses are oh, well, this isn't a story that I like, or this isn't a story that I connected to. I'm not writing this for you. I'm writing it for the target audience. But to be fair, it's their job.
To be fair, it is their job, and also the fact that they're not interested outside of the target audience suggests that sales would be limited, which they're probably not as invested in, right? So
I guess that's one way to look at it. I shouldn't vent. It's not professional. And as much as I like to joke, so professional. I do want to maintain. I do want to maintain a minor.
If you were being unprofessional, you would name drop people. That would be unprofessional.
So this one literary agency really pissed me off.
This one doctor who had no bedside manner whatsoever. Yeah.
Anyways. Let me
tell you his name so you never go to him ever again, right? That would be unprofessional, but you're
Oh, that sounds so good though, but I won't. No, it wasn't that
bad. It's one of those things that, we're only human.
No, I know. And they're only human
we're doing this because it's fun. You write because you want to do it, not because you're looking for the approval of literary agents. So
right.
In a way, if they're going to tell you to go somewhere else, you do it.
Right, no, exactly.
Not that you want to, but...
Well, and plus, one other tactic I'm also going to try to do, as well as try and promote it myself, Megazoic myself, was work on Teslanauts, and work on other ideas. Get a portfolio going, and maybe one of those ideas they'll be more interested in. And then, if they are more interested in and it goes well, I can be like, hey, as well, I got these other ideas that I've finished.
Hey, a blog that you're actually going to update. Whoops.
I could never get into blogs. I've never been able to get into it. I'm just what do I write about?
Anything. That's the curse and the blessing.
I hate it. It's the world is your sandbox. What do? Nothing. Because you can't start. But anyways, as well as doing that, as well as writing new stuff, I've done some other promotion things. I did a couple months ago, I did a 5-day promotion on Kindle recently, where all 4 books were free for a limited time on Kindle only. This is a thing that they allow you to do.
Sure.
And through this, I, quote-unquote, sold, and it's not sold because they're free, but someone did see this and be like, okay, I'm going to get this. They chose the right, I didn't give it to them, but I sold 200 copies.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat.
Well, I mean, you're getting it out there. I don't know if that counts as a sale, but
It's not a sale. There's no money to be gained from it, but there is publicity.
But it is more interest than you had. It's more interest than you had going in. That's what I'll say.
Right.
So
like,
obviously, that kind of promotion is really good too.
Yeah, like clearly there's an interest in the book if so many people pounced on the opportunity to get it when it was free. You know, so that I think so. Anyways, I'm gonna do this more often. Unfortunately, you can only do this a certain number of days in a certain period, and and then there are only 5.
Sure.
There are only 5 days you can do this per period, so I'm going to instead. It's a 3-month period. So next time I'm going to do the 2 days it's going to be free. The next month 2 days it's going to be free, and then the final month 1 day it's free. So.
Well, I mean, it's possible to do that too, but at the same time, and this is a very business related thing too. Just don't undervalue yourself. If you're giving it out free all the time, you're going to get more interest, but you're also kind of devaluing your own product at that point.
I don't really care at this point. Like if they want the print version, they can get it. Like if they want that, they can get it. It doesn't at this point. I can't focus on sales. I can't focus on product because I don't have a name for myself. So this is just all about publicity. So I'm going to do this as often as I can. So I get what you're saying by devaluing it, but it's not something I can really worry about right now. But basically, yeah. So like this is what
early in your career.
This is what publishers, what writers are trying to do mostly. You like try to prove the story can sell themselves. And it doesn't always work, but with a little determination and a lot of caffeine / alcohol, you have more of a chance to hit it big.
Which one you use?
Well, I'd like to think I'm not a 12-year-old in a 28-year-old's body, so yeah, alcohol, totally.
Yeah, alcohol, totally.
Bring on the vodka!
Bring on the flask. No, I'm kidding.
Shot of bourbon. Good casket of ale.
That's okay. No,
and of course, to be fancy, we got a glass of fine
stuff
white wine. So...
Now, obviously, that self-promotion stuff is important, too, and, considering our loose definition of writ, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean, obviously it does apply, because it's something that's, your livelihood using writing, so...
I mean, at the very least, it's about my writing, so... Yeah.
It is. You're absolutely right. I feel like anytime you could end any argument by saying, it's about writing, and people would be just like, well, if they listen to this podcast, they'd be like, yeah, I guess you're right.
I'm working at my coffee shop that is very famous.
Now it shall not be named, yeah.
And I get the drink wrong, and someone's like, "Well, why'd you do that?" Like, "Oh, it's about reading," and they'd be like, "Oh yeah."
Oh, okay, of course.
Yeah, like I understand.
That would be hysterical. Anyway, yeah, I mean, having those promotions is certainly a tactic that self-published authors need to use to get started as well.
Right.
So, good on you that you're finding these opportunities to get extra notice.
Yeah, no, exactly. But
however, not that you ever want to remove interest, but if you're thinking about removing scenes,
dang it, you're taking the segue. That's okay.
Come on, you gotta let me have a couple.
Like we've said, this is a collaborative podcast, so I guess I'll let you have a couple.
Well, despite your dictatorial tendencies. And so we've been talking about revising lately, this entire set, but we talked a little bit about redrafting. We talked more about revising particular scenes or larger sections that aren't the whole draft or even half of one, as we talked about. But this time we're just going to talk about removing scenes, clipping as we call it, removing unnecessary ones.
Clipping. We're now officially a haircutting podcast, listeners.
Yep. Well, I mean, I do love barbershops.
I was going to say you love barbershop. Great minds think alike. Speaking of which, I really need a haircut, listeners. I was telling this to him earlier. I really need a haircut.
I don't.
You and your buzz cut, you're fine.
Well, I was about to say, that's the beauty of buzz cuts, is that I can even do it myself. If it looks crappy, well, so what? I did it myself. Screw you.
You buzz cut yourself? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. Most of the haircuts I've done in Japan have been my own.
Oh, in Japan, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, but
yeah. When I go to it, I mean, I'm sorry. In Japan, it's even more expensive than the equivalent would be in the States to get a haircut. I don't need to pay someone that much money to shave off most of my hair.
Makes
now,
sense.
Admittedly, doing the back is a real chore.
Just get a couple mirrors and...
I mean, I never leave it I never just like, screw it, I'll leave the back as it is because I can't see it. I don't ever do that, but it's
No, you should have a
real
buzz
pain
cut in the
neck.
front and like a long Legolas-style locks in the back.
Like a mullet in the back. Yeah, I don't know.
Eventually gets big, it's like a lion's mane.
Just like removing excess hair, removing scenes sometimes
Good.
needs to be done.
Perfect.
So what are the best ways to justify deleting a scene rather than just, altering it or just revising it?
Well, like, in my instance, it's like when it disrupts the pacing, like when it's just filler or when it's too much in one way or another. When it's too much in one way or another, and numerous assortment of other things. It really depends on the scene. Sometimes Sometimes it's too violent or sexual in a work meant for a younger demographic and needs to be toned down. Sometimes it's just unnecessary and the story reads better without it. The latter happened to me once in the first chapter of the published version of Megazoic, actually. A bit of a behind-the-curtain thing here for the book.
Sure.
Originally, there was this scene... What was that noise?
I'm sorry. I should explain for the listeners, too. That
Yes,
was me doing a
please.
stupid opening the curtain sound since you said open the curtain.
It sounded like you were hogging a
so I was
loogie.
pulling the curtain.
Like, Anyways.
Yes, I know. I know what it could have been construed as, and that's why I explained it.
Anyways.
It wasn't it, I swear.
Originally, there was this scene where Cortan tried to get something to eat from a feeding station, aka automated restaurant sort of thing, ended up not working out for a multitude of reasons. Well, like the scene ended up not working out for a multitude of reasons. Like one,
He did get the food.
he didn't
ahead.
get the food. That's actually true. He did.
Go ahead.
One, I used the scientific name of the plants, the animals, and dinosaur species to sort of like add to the prehistoric atmosphere, but it was used way too much in both the food items ordered and the customers ordering them, overwhelming the reader so early in the story.
True.
Like two,
Not a
it was
good
just
start.
it was just pointless all around, as it only showed how bad Cortan's day was when the rest of the scene already showed that. And finally,
You could find another way to do it.
Yeah. Finally, the story just flowed better without it in terms of pacing, and since it was in the critical first few pages to suck the reader in or lose them forever, the book works best without it, so I got rid of it.
Yeah. I mean, in my personal, what are the best ways to justify this? If the author finds it unnecessary, what will the reader think?
Right.
I mean, there are times that, this throwaway line or character that you kept in is somebody's favorite, but you're probably not risking too many people's ire by throwing out this scene.
Right. Right, exactly.
Maybe you were experimenting with something and it just didn't hit. You can't be afraid to axe it, or if you choose, store it for memory's sake but not use it.
Right.
Before you make this decision, consider whether it's a mere retouch away, like just a revision,
Right.
or if it is truly irredeemable.
Ah.
In the case of the latter, it's bye-bye to that block of text.
Irredeemable, like Ant-Man, right? Is that one? Or is it Iron Man?
No, I can't remember which hero got to use that. Well, I mean, not the.
I thought it was
Scott Lang
Ant-Man because there was
character,
that thing
but I
with Hank
suppose-
Pym hitting his
Yeah,
wife.
Hank Pym. Yeah, I was gonna say Hank Pym had a thing that is totally irredeemable, but that's not the Scott Lang version, which I'm sure most people listening to our podcast, being products of the 21st century, are probably thinking about. So,
Right.
to be clear, but anyway, no, I think it was not used as a comic book title anyway.
Hold on, let me
But it
check.
was an
Even though this is
adjective.
just a throwaway gag, I'm going to check, and I'm not going to leave it. I'm not going to cut this out because even though this is a thing about cutting out, I'll cut it out.
So professional, unnecessary scenes and all
Comics.
that. Anyway,
The irredeemable. No, not the comic irredeemable.
yeah, no, but I'm thinking that it wasn't used as a adjective for like the spectacular Spider-Man or the superior Spider-Man. I don't think they used it as a title for the comic. I think it was
I
just something
thought
that
for sure they
was.
did, but well, it's okay. It doesn't matter, anyways.
Since you didn't find anything, you could just clip this unnecessary scene. And speaking of which,
Well, now I can't because you flawlessly segued into it. Anyway, so say you're trying to keep this.
Usually do.
Like, say you're trying to keep the story at a certain word count, like if it's for a contest or a publisher that has a maximum word count, and the story you want to submit is just a little too long. What do you cut and how?
That's a That's a loaded question. I mean, obviously, you don't want to cut anything, but if you had to cut something, I suppose, in my personal order, which my opinion may differ from yours, fruitless scenes, a la detours or interludes, as we called them way back when we did that set, extraneous exposition, wordy narration when it can be optimized. Of course, you should make sure to optimize it.
Right.
Excess banter, and phrases in need of a thesaurus.
Right.
At the same time, simultaneously. How you do the trimming? Identify what you feel must be kept versus whether you feel comfortable parting with it.
Right.
Then pull out the eliminated stuff and choose your destination. Separate file for safekeeping or the recycle bin. Or maybe even the unending abyss of the delete splash backspace key, whatever it's called on your computer. Don't forget that if it's just fluffy in word count, but still necessary to your narrative, that it needs to be revised.
Right. And for more on that, no, you get it at this point. All right. For me, unnecessary over-description is a good thing to get rid of if it's just a little too long. Like unnecessary over-description at multiple points can really add up in terms of trimming the word count of the story, like i.e. purple prose.
Right.
Like,
well, I mean, if you take out 5 words in 20 different places, that's already 100 words gone. Even if
right,
you're
exactly.
taking out that much.
Like, how much do you need to keep for the scene's purpose? Once you find that precise amount, try and keep the rest down. Now, on the other hand, if you like the flowery descriptions because, like, they serve a point to the story in some other way, like adding atmosphere, then
now
maybe
that's Now, if it adds something to your plot, yes.
right.
Sorry,
but then maybe cut out a minor plot line that's not as necessary to the story as a whole. Like, there are multiple ways to.
Yeah, you have to find the right balance of what fits versus what doesn't. Obviously, Donald made the comment with one of the past Captain Ritz serials that the edited product became so disjunct because, like, he edited stuff that I put in there on purpose, and
right.
it needed to be there even if it was wordy.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, okay, I guess I just have to cut this story and by a significant portion and be like, you'll find the rest later, i.e. never, or maybe when there's a Patreon.
I.e. when we ever finally get Patreon done, yes. Anyway.
One of these days.
One of these days, you keep saying, but you don't
move
on it.
Until the heat death of the universe, that could still be true. So...
Are you saying we're never gonna do this? Why? All right.
But
yeah.
Anyway, so speaking of drama like that, you love this scene for so much for some reason, and even though the story calls for it, you just can't bring yourself to get rid of it. Oh, the humanity! What could you ever possibly do?
I mean, it's that awesome scene that's totally unnecessary because it's like the third time that they've done this very act on page, but I just can't bring myself to part with it. But I really liked writing it. No, all joking aside, I do like keeping my favorite scenes as like a testimonial to what I felt confident about doing, even if they ended up removed from the final product. Now, in that case, I'd probably do it in like a separate file rather than... I mean, obviously, if you keep it in, you can just keep it in the file of the same story, right? But
right.
If you take it out, then you need to put it somewhere where you can keep track of it. Because, like, this is a scene you enjoyed writing. But if it's unnecessary to the final purpose, keep in mind that you have larger aims than just this one scene that you've written. So make the next one better.
Right. Exactly. Well, and tell yourself that you can write a scene like it for another story, or a scene equally as good. You're a writer, and you have a lot of ideas within you. You'll come up with another great scene. Okay, well, we like to be encouraged.
I guess.
I like to be encouraging in this podcast. My co-host might disagree.
Depends on the writer.
My co-host might disagree, but I like to be encouraging. So.
Well, no, I try to encourage people too. I'm just saying that depending on the writer, they might not have a lot of ideas. They just have like one good one, for example.
Well.
Put it this way: you cannot deny that there are a lot more people who can write really crappy stories and enjoy doing it than there are who can always write good ones.
I guess that's true. I guess there's some people like that write that one book and then never write anything else. Like Harper Lee with To Kill a Mockingbird. That was that was their only work.
Actually, I think there was like a sequel published to that.
But I don't think it was written by Harper Lee though. So.
But anyway, well, like the thing that comes to my mind, particularly, I'm a veteran of the fan fiction scene, by hook or by crook, and a lot of people are. They have these ideas that they think are great, but they just don't translate to other people because usually it's like a self-insert or a Mary Sue character. Right. And so, like, that's their idea. If that's your only idea, that's not a lot of ideas, is it?
Well, every writer is different, but, like, I like to think if you're a creative person, you've got a lot of ideas within you. Like, you'll come up with another great scene, or give this one a purpose in some other story where it might fit better. Like, don't think cutting out a good but unnecessary scene means it's the end of the world. You've got others in you. At least I think. That is others true. Might disagree. No. But...
Well, feel free to disagree. No, I do agree with that. But, you know, your favorite scene from this particular draft, this manuscript, might not make the cutting room floor, but that doesn't mean you can't take pride in doing it.
Right.
It just means you got to try harder to make another one that's just as good to you, that's just as passionate. And honestly, it's more fun. Like, just an experience from my own life. There's a story I'm working on with a different roommate. I've had a few roommates at this point in my life, listeners.
Yeah.
We're doing it's an add-on story, or I like to call it the tag story. And so we both created alter egos for ourselves that have superpowers. And there's this one scene in that story that I did, and we had this boxing match between the two alter egos. Ooh. Now, I know next to nothing about boxing. I've never really written anything like it. But the fact that I wrote this scene and I had so much fun doing it, and I don't know if it's close to accurate. I don't know how good it is. My co-author really liked the scene, and I'm just like, well, that's encouraging because I've never tried anything quite like it before. I really liked that scene. Will it make the final story? Well, because it's an add-on story, I suppose that's a little bit different. But like, if I edited the publishable version, would that scene stay in there? I don't know, because it got really long-winded. Right. But it was so much fun. I'm proud of that scene. So now I have every motivation to go back and make a different scene just as good. Right. Maybe not about boxing matches per se, but you know, finding that next idea and getting it on page such that other people appreciate it too.
Right. Well,
which is the goal.
You might not be much of a boxer, but I am quite the pugilist. I just know that because
pugilist, are you?
I just want to use the word pugilist. That's my word, vitamin word for the month.
Oh, okay. So you're just gonna undermine the segment by throwing out an extra one. Great, thanks. Yeah, well,
anyways, hey, I can fight you for it. I am quite the pugilist. Anyways, but so.
How many more times can you shoehorn pugilist in this?
Okay, now you're just forcing
keep track, listeners.
Should you
weren't?
Should you wait until the whole story is finished before deciding what scenes to cut, or cut them as you're writing?
This is the weekly point of reminder that our two opinions may not agree with yours, listeners.
Right.
I should probably remember to put that in more weeks than whoops.
Pretty much every week, I'd say.
Yeah, but
writing is subjective, like any form of art. So you can listen to us or not.
Well, and that's the thing, is that everybody has a different idea of what success constitutes. We're aiming for perfection in something that is notoriously imperfect.
Right.
Because it's so subjective.
Yes.
Anyway, I should probably put that reminder in more weeks in. But my opinion is this. I think anytime you're gearing up to revise stuff, for more on that, episode 54, we talked about that. If you're allowing it, that's why.
Fine, I'll allow it.
Okay, thanks. It's worth
I think it's our first one
of
the episode, so.
You know, I think you're right.
Okay.
We didn't do the spoiler siren on whatever. Anyway,
moving on.
It's worth taking a hard look at your less desirable scenes and make those first cuts before committing to a larger retool, since it may solve the problem right then and there.
Right.
But in process, it could play into your tale somewhere down the line, so I'd suggest holding on to it for this draft.
Right. Okay. Well, like, for me...
Like, because, I feel like I do need to just explain a little bit more. Like,
yeah, of course, go ahead.
I think that until you've gotten the draft to either the point where you're giving up to retool, you know you're going to retool it, or you're done with the story and then look back and say, this scene just doesn't work, it bogs everything down, it doesn't belong here, maybe I should move it, whatever. But like, if it's something that relocation solves the issue, then deleting it too prematurely doesn't make any sense.
Right. That makes
so
sense.
I'd say until you're done with this draft, whatever done means, I'd say hold on to it.
Okay. Well, for me, it depends on the writer and the story. Like, sometimes if you're certain the scene in question does not work, even though you're not finished with the draft, then get rid of it then and there. But on the other hand, maybe the scene might be unnecessary for now, but it could potentially build up to an important plot point later in some manner. You can make the
or
purpose...
it just needs a retool.
Right. Or maybe you can use this purpose in the... You can make this purpose later in a scene that calls it back, retroactively making the previously unnecessary scene necessary. There's a myriad of ways to do it. Like, so...
I do like that you added that, because there's one with Starburst. One of the things I've noticed going back through, we had the typical gathering place. For anyone who's seen Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, you probably remember Ernie's Juice Bar, where the kids would gather and do all these things with their respective disciplines, whatever it was. And originally, when we started writing Starburst, we had them gathering in a malt shop, but then basically abandoned the malt shop.
Oh no. Not the malt shop!
Not the malt shop, but it was unintentional, but, you know, going back through it with the finale now, it's like, oh, well, let me add in a scene at the malt shop and give it some added importance. We didn't forget about this on purpose. It's still there.
Right. Well, it's kind of like... And those, like, you have, like, a scene where, like, your characters are hanging out, and then there's this extended scene where this one
Down
character...
the street.
Well, this one character proves that he's really good at blackjack. And it's a really long, extended scene. And then... you know, you're like, oh, what's the point of that? And then like, oh, then whatever. But then the scene doesn't get cut. You move on. Like, maybe I should get rid of that. But then also, what happens then later is that the villain is like, I will take over the world. Unless someone beats me at blackjack.
Somebody can beat me at blackjack.
And the guy's like, here's where I'm stepping in.
All right, I got this, guys. Just settle down. It's all good. I mean, you know, but there are some ways. I mean, I would honestly go so far as saying that clipping a scene is your last resort.
Right. I have to agree with that.
Because, you know, there are ways to use it later, make it relevant, make it, as Donald said, necessary.
Yes.
That you don't have to get rid of it whole hog. But, again, if you're dead red certain and no amount of retooling is worth the time it takes to rewrite the thing, then axing it is not a problem. But I don't think it should be your first choice.
Right, that makes sense.
I mean, you did say, Donald, if you're certain, but maybe before you've decided that, you've put some thought into, oh, if I put this in a different place, or if I reworded this or rewrote it, whatever. So
the nice thing about stories is that they're more flexible than you might think. So sometimes, anyways.
That is true. Well, until you bequeath it, excuse me, not the right word. Until you relinquish it to someone else.
I do like the word bequeath, though. I wish you had used it properly.
Bequeath, I feel bad that I didn't. Although, I mean, it could work if you die and give it off to your offspring to finish writing. But that's bequeathing, not...
Before I finished Megazoic, I had in my will that I would bequeath the story to you for you to finish if something were to happen to me.
Because you totally have a will. Right. Anyway...
You know, it's good to be prepared.
You get on that, 28.
It's good to be prepared, and plus I'm a pessimist, so I feel like I'm going to die any moment. So
you should get on that, Mr. 28. Now, like
I know I'm getting up there.
we did talk about in our special grief episode that I lost my dad, and
okay. Well, now we're getting serious. Okay.
No, well, not for terribly long, but he did have a will, but the last time he updated it, I was still like 2 years old. So, you know, it just goes to show you that kind of stuff is worth thinking about sooner than you need it. And more often.
Well, on that lively
making
note,
it necessary.
that's it for this week. Contact us.
Sure.
at mattd@mathedonalcreator.com for any general questions to either co-host. If you have a question for one of us specifically,
I mean, if you want to ask Donald a question, just say Donald. If you want to ask me a question, just say Donald. No, I'm kidding. Say David.
Oh, wow. Okay,
email,
make it
by the way,
make it complicated there.
Matt D with 2 T's at MatthewDonaldCreator.com.
And if you want to follow me personally, you can follow me at MatthewDonaldCreator on Facebook, at MatthewDonald64 on Twitter, and MatthewDonald64 on Instagram. Why 64? Because that's how many different story ideas I have successfully written, completed, and published.
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure about that.
Yeah. You can look at them at the
Right.
library, you can look at them on Amazon, they are there.
Also, I still have to wonder, do you even really use Instagram? I can't honestly think of anything you've done.
You don't follow me on Instagram, how do you know? Of course I use Instagram.
I don't have an Instagram.
Then why the hell
so
are
it
you
would make
asking?
no sense.
I use Instagram, yes. I think,
Feels
hold
like
on.
you don't
Are
ever
you in any of
use
my pictures on
Instagram.
Instagram? Let me check. I think I might have posted that one that Patrick took of us at the game. Let me check.
Oh, well, I don't see why you'd put that on your... Well,
Yep,
I guess
here it
it's
is.
not your
Look, there you are on my
creator
Instagram.
page. Yeah, because I can totally see what you're seeing in your
Hold
phone,
on.
in your hand.
There we go.
Ah, okay. All right,
Anyways.
fine. You use Instagram. I just thought it was worth asking.
Oh, and you're also on this picture here. Again, I'm leaving all this in, even though the listeners can't see it.
The listeners can't see it either.
There you
I
are.
can't even... Oh, is that out on the back? Okay.
That's on the spider ride
It's
at
kind of
Elitch
blurry.
Gardens.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry, it's very blurry. It's
Yeah,
kinda
it's okay.
hard for me to- but that's
Anyways, all right.
Anyway,
I'm Matt
yes.
Donald.
In case you were curious, listeners, now you know Matt Donald does actually use his Instagram, by the way.
Yes, and now that you know that Matt Donald uses Instagram,
So
I
go
can say that
follow
I'm
him there.
Matt Donald.
And I'm Matt David.
There's so much of this episode we need to clip, but I'm not going to.
Well, I was about to say, depending on how much goes clipping, it'll be fine. But until next time, we'll be back with you with more about revision. It'll be the last one of this set, actually.
Yep.
But until next time, keep those ideas flowing. Keep writing, listeners. And this is us, two twits from the Ritwit who talk about ridding. Until next time.
Bye.
The